some hockey.
You are watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. Paul, unfortunately, won't be here today. He'll be back with us tomorrow. We're sending best wishes. Get better. He's feeling off for today, but you know what? Looking forward to having him back with Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and, of course, Paramount Sports Management. Hey, I have a special treat for you. This guy is absolutely incredible. I had a chance to meet him for the first time in Sheffield, England. We'll talk a little bit about that fun that we had. And one of the things that I got teased about is you guys all know I don't say names very well, right? So I went and got the phonics of how to say this guy's last name. Just going to get the phonics up. Kevin Bieksa. He's going to yell at me, I know, for a fact, because I probably said it wrong. But what a great guy, and what a great opportunity to have him here. Listen, no fanfare. We got our buddy Kevin. Okay, Kev, I know I said it about 1,000 times wrong in Sheffield. How do you say your last name?
It's Bieksa. You're close.
Yeah, I was good, hey?
It's phonetical. It's Bieksa. Not
That's
bad.
exactly what Val did. He sent me phonics. Bieksa.
You can do it.
Bieksa. I know the boys were bugging me on the bus too. I must have said it about 15 Beaker or Beekster or whatever the heck.
It's easier to say with the more beers you consume, actually.
Listen, this is not coffee.
No, I wouldn't think it was. Not in that mug.
Where the hell are you?
I'm north of Toronto at my cottage, about 2-hour drive north of Toronto, where I've spent my last seven summers now. With my wife and the kids, we drove back from California to cross the border, and this is kind of where we relax and unwind. And my son's training now every day, and we're out in the boat, the water. So this is God's country.
Oh, it's absolutely phenomenal. You took some time out to be with us. Of course, you were born in Grimsby, and so you're almost home.
Yep.
And being up there, I'll tell you what, it definitely is God's country, unless you got to Winnipeg and you went up north to Lake Winnipeg, Bel Air, Manitoba. That's God's country.
Close second.
Lots more mosquitoes, though, so I don't think you're going to get there. Listen, we're going to talk about your youth career, of course, coming through the Burlington Cougars. Talk to us about how you started your youth program, and then obviously we'll talk about you going to university, going through the AHL, and then obviously your great career in the NHL.
Yeah, so minor hockey for me back in the day, and I'm coaching minor hockey right now. I'm coaching 2007 AAA team in Anaheim, and we have kids from all over different parts of California and even some other states. But when I grew up, you played in your hometown. So I grew up in Grimsby. I played for Grimsby. So I played for Grimsby, and we had a single A team, was the highest level we had. Up until I was my first year Pee-wee. And then back then you were able to make a decision if you wanted to go play Stony Creek or St. Catharines, because Grimsby was kind of right in the middle. And that was kind of my first opportunity to go play AAA at my second year Pee-wee. So I ended up going to Stony Creek. I played 3 years there, and then I moved on to the Burlington Cougars, where my best friend and I, we went to the under-17 camp. We did very well. We didn't end up making the Team Ontario, but we had a good enough showing that we had a bunch of junior teams offering us spots. So we went to the Cougars, which was from my house. I could get to the arena in 15 minutes. So it was great. It was a quick shot up to QEW, get off at North Shore Boulevard, and I played 2.5 seasons for the Cougars. I say 2.5 because my first year, I made the team as a 16-year-old defenseman. I started the year as the only defenseman on its first power play unit, and I slowly worked my way down until I was out of the lineup being healthy scratched. So I took a step back and went and played Junior B for Stony Creek, and then regained my confidence, came back the following year with the Cougars, and made the All-Star game. So 3-year career in Burlington, and then I always wanted to kind of pursue a college career, college scholarship, and get a free education. I got drafted to the OHL from Don Cherry's Mississauga Ice Dogs. Their first season, went to camp, made the team, and then had to kind of make the tough decision to say no thank you and play another year for the Cougars and pursue a scholarship. So it all ended up working out, got my education, got my degree, and had a great 4 years at Bowling Green.
Well, you know, we like asking the question, of course, now the situation with the pandemic, making that decision whether to go to college or university, sorry, or the OHL. If you're thinking about kids this year or players this year, you know, they didn't have a chance to make a choice on whether or not they played for Memorial Cup or obviously a state championship or the university NCAA championship. What do you think that means for a young man now who wanted to use the OHL? You know, it's a great opportunity throughout the Memorial Cup to have a bunch of agents or general managers watching them play at such a high level, or of course in the NCAA finals, there are a lot of opportunities to be noticed, and that it would help you in your draft year, or not even get a chance to win the trophy. How do you think they feel at this particular moment?
Yeah, well, they're feeling down and they're suffering like everybody else in the world suffering. So there's a lot of people. I mean, I don't think anyone's immune from suffering from this pandemic to some extent. Whether it's you're a small business owner and you need customers and business to put food on the table. You know, sports is a lot lower down the totem pole, but certainly these kids that were looking forward to the opportunity to play in the playoffs, Memorial Cup, finish out their seasons, and they don't get many, right? In college, you get 4 years of eligibility, and that's it. But I think I do work for my former agent Kurt Overhart, and I do a lot of scouting for him. Luckily, these kids don't have to rely on one Memorial Cup tournament or one playoff to get on the map. They're well scouted from young ages now. It's a lot different than when I was a kid, where there wasn't as much internet exposure and there wasn't as much of a database. My agency, and we're a boutique agency, but we have a database on everybody. So everybody is on the map right now if you're playing at a high level of hockey. So don't worry too much, guys. If you're good enough, you'll get there.
Absolutely, no question. Very well said. All right, after making the decision to go to Bowling Green State University, talk to us about that. How was it playing in the NCAA? It's the CCHA, I guess.
Yeah, no, NCAA, but back then it was the CCHA. So
can you tell us the difference, Kevin, if you don't mind? Or is it just they changed the names?
Well, NCAA is the whole league. NCAA is all collegiate sports in the U.S. And the CCHA, the Central Collegiate Hockey Association, was a division. So there's the WCHA, which would have North Dakota, Minnesota, Colorado, Denver. The CCHA back then, and they got all reorganized, but the CCHA back then was Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. We had Alaska Fairbanks. We had Nebraska Omaha. We had Notre Dame. We had most of the Big Ten schools in football now. And when Penn State came in, they kind of reorganized and reshuffled it. Hockey East has always been Boston College, Northeastern, Harvard, Princeton. So it's just a division. So It played a big factor in determining where I went. Bowling Green was the first team to offer me a scholarship after an early bird tournament in September of my last year junior. There was an early bird tournament in Fort Erie, Ontario. They came, a lot of schools came to scout. They offered me a full scholarship. And the way it works is like dominoes. Once the first school offers you one, the other schools catch wind of it. And then next thing you know, I had 15 scholarship offers to schools all over the country. So kind of had to shuffle through those, and you get to choose 5 that you get to go on an official visit with, where they fly you or drive you and your parents down, and you stay a night and you meet the coaches and see the facilities. Bowling Green, I think, was the 3rd school on my visits, and it was the last. After I left Bowling Green, I'd already been to Niagara University and St. Lawrence University. And after I left Bowling Green, it was just a feeling out thing, right? Like I liked the coach at the time, who ended up getting fired 2 years later. I really liked the guys, the older classmen that took me out. I liked it was far enough away from home, but still close enough that my dad could come to every game on the weekend. So that was a big decision, and I made the right one. It was a good school. They had a history for putting defensemen into the NHL with Rob Blake and Dave Alec, Gary Galley, and they had Nelson Emerson, Holzinger. They had a lot of good NHL talent. So it was a good school.
Now, Kevin, if you don't mind me asking, obviously you hear in the controversy about whether guys should be paid or not paid. Did you even consider that something that you didn't like? Like obviously you got a full paid scholarship. Now, obviously they're starting to talk about paying for the rights of the player and that. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's as applicable to hockey because I don't think NCAA hockey generates a whole lot of revenue. I think when you look at college football, that's where you really think that the players should be getting a cut. I went to a couple of Ohio State football games when I was down there. There's 110,000 people in the stands.
How
And
crazy
if
is
you're
it?
averaging out $100 a ticket, like do the math, that's for one home game. And, you know, at some point the players should be getting a cut for that, I think, because, you know, the mega powerhouse teams with the star quarterbacks and running backs and all that, that should be a way, because they're kind of doing it illegally with the recruiting. I may be talking out of turn, but I'm sure they're getting incentives here or there. It's whether or not they get caught or not. But if you pay these guys, some of these college football players that are going to the big schools and generating like tens of millions of dollars for the school, you know, it probably would make the recruiting process a lot more legal and even playing field at least, right? The colleges make too much money off these, especially football for sure. And I think the players should get a cut of that.
So if you don't mind me asking, obviously the OHL, you know, they're going through, or sorry, CHL, the same thing. If a player's taken care of as a junior, should they be being paid?
Yeah, it's just a tough argument, Kerry. I don't know. I didn't play in the OHL. I know, you know, that's the whole, that basically differentiates between amateur and professional status is whether or not you're getting a paycheck. Again, I don't think in the OHL you're generating a whole lot. I think the owners of the teams are entitled to be able to run their business to make themselves money. I don't think they're super profitable to the point where they can start paying their players. So I still don't buy the whole OHL. I know they get whether it's a stipend or some sort of allowance. Maybe that could be increased a little bit to make it a little more fair. But I still think amateur sports, for the most part, you shouldn't be paid.
The only reason I asked that, I read an article from a young man that said that exactly what you said. Listen, they paid for everything, and I had a chance to obviously develop my skills, and I had an opportunity to get drafted. So I agree with that. Listen, we've got. Let's move into draft day. Vancouver Canucks, 5th round. What a feeling! How did you feel putting that jersey on?
I didn't go to the draft, Kerry. It's a great story. I probably told it to you and you forgot it.
Yeah.
When we were in Sheffield.
I have a tough time with your last name, for God's sake.
I had a couple interviews with team. Sorry, were you? You can say it now, though, right?
Okay, I'm 60.
You are?
And so I'm a little forgetful.
Gee, yeah, I'll take it easy on you then.
Thanks, buddy.
But the story is, my dad was down. My draft was in Florida, Sunrise, Florida, at the arena, and my dad was down there on business. I can't remember what it was. My dad's involved in the unions. And he asked me before, do you want to come down with me and we'll go to the draft? And I said, no, like, I don't even know if I'm going to get drafted. I had a couple interviews with teams, but, you know, most likely if I do get drafted, it's in the later rounds and, you know, it's just not worth it to me. My goal was never to get drafted into the NHL. My goal was to play in the NHL. So I didn't really care too much or put a whole lot into the draft. So my dad went down anyways, and I decided to go to just over the border, Darien Lake's a theme park, Six Flags Darien Lake. I went there with my 3 best buddies at the time, and we stayed. We had a weekend. We barbecued a lot of food. We drank a lot of beers, and I ended up getting a call Sunday morning from my stepmom at the time, and she said, "You got drafted by Vancouver in the 5th round," and this would have been like 9 a.m. in the morning after a full day of drinking and eating barbecue. So, you know, the way I celebrated, the way any other Canadian would celebrate, we had a shotgun. So we all grabbed a beer and did a shotgun at 9 in the morning. And then we went to the theme park for the day. So that's kind of how I celebrated my draft. I'm sure it's, I had a lot more fun than some of the guys that went to the draft and stands for 6 hours. And then again, my goal was always to make the NHL, and the draft is, you know, unless you're getting drafted in the first round or the first 10, 15 spots, you have such a long road ahead of you to make it to being an actual an everyday player and staying. So it was just a small accomplishment to me at the time. It didn't mean a whole lot, but it was obviously an honor. Look at me there, young guy.
Yeah, look at that. But look at, I just got this compliment. You're a young 60. And then, of course, Val has to, our producer has to say, Gooch, you're 61. Who's counting? It doesn't count. It's a pandemic. My birthday was through the pandemic, so I'm only 60.
You don't look 61, so that's,
Well,
that,
yeah, I look
that's a
60.
tribute to you. I don't know what you're doing, but you look good for 61.
But it's my wife. And we're going to talk about it.
50, but good for 61.
You and I will talk a little bit about Sheffield a bit, how much fun we had there. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a question from Barry Shelley. St. Louis is, St. Lawrence. My buddy went to it, actually.
Okay.
He was in the booty, so thank God you didn't pick it, he says.
It was a small school, a really small enrollment, but the arena was really cool. And they just came off of, they were in the Frozen Four that year. So they had a really strong team. And, their pitch was I was going to come in and replace their top defenseman that was graduating. But the arena had all, and it probably still does, it has all these really vintage wooden pews. That's the stands in the arena. It's a small arena that probably seats 4,000 or 5,000. And that was my runner-up. That was a tough decision. It was a good school.
All right, now as we move on, you went to the Manitoba Moose, and we got a comment from Paul's brother. This guy, Bieksa.
See, now you're just pissing me off.
I'm going to get there, buddy. I'm going to get there. Hey, listen, was tougher than a nail in jail or a night in jail. What is that all about?
I don't know. You're a viewer.
That's a weird viewer. No, it's Paul Rosen's brother. Hey, listen. So now when you get to the Manitoba Moose, obviously my country, Winnipeg, how'd you enjoy Winnipeg and of course playing in with the Moose?
Loved it. Great experience. My last year in university, once the season was over in February, I went up to Winnipeg and I played the last 6 weeks of the season up there. So I got a little bit of a taste for it. And then the following year was the 2004 lockout where the whole entire NHL season was canceled for those that don't remember. So I still had to go to camp and make that team because there was obviously a backlog of players coming down that wanted to play in the AHL that year. So I wasn't really penciled in to be on the team to start the year. I was supposed to start in Columbia in the East Coast League. I had a 3-way contract back then. For all those that have never heard of a 3-way, I had one. But I basically went to camp and I stole somebody's position by having a good camp and started the season in Winnipeg and basically went out every game and just tried to play good enough to be in the lineup the next night. And then it snowballed and ended up making the all rookie team. And we had a great year. And we closed up the Winnipeg Arena, which you probably remember, Gouche.
Fantastic.
Opened up the MTS Center. So I was not the last fight at the Winnipeg Arena, but I was probably the last guy to punch somebody in the face. We had a scrum and I grabbed the guy and I just cold-cocked him with my glove on. And that was probably the last punch in the head at Winnipeg Arena. And then I was the first fight at the MTS Center against Ben Andres. So I christened the new rink nicely, and I laid to rest the old Winnipeg barn nicely too. So I loved it in Winnipeg.
How cool was that barn? It was loud. Winnipeg Arena was unbelievable.
Which one? The old one?
The old one.
The old one. I mean, I just remember when I first walked into the room there, and it's a little bit of a dungeon, right? It's the old arena, and there's beams everywhere. There's of like hall space, but it's just so much history there, right? I loved all the older. It's sad every time they have to close down an old arena.
Absolutely. Listen, our European correspondent Shoppy, he's from Krefeld. He always tries to find a connection between our guests and obviously the Krefeld Penguins. The gentleman's name is Marl Vokes. You remember that name?
Yeah, Mark. It's Mark. I think he made a spelling mistake. I remember Vokesy. Yeah. I only played 1 year with him, I believe, in college, and he was kind of like a skilled winger from what I remember. Yeah. And I had no idea he's still playing. He's
playing in Munich.
Because he's only a couple of years younger than me, right? So he's in his late 30s right now.
Yeah.
Good for him.
In the DL you can carry. I played till 41 for God's sakes, but but
you got those great genes.
No, it was 51. It was the 5th division. Don't tell anybody that.
I won't tell anyone. You just told the whole world, though.
Hey, listen, it's Ben's birthday. Kevin Shea.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
We'll sing birthday songs a little bit later.
Benny Anderson, a good tough prairie boy. He was tough. I fought him a couple times.
Wins or losses?
I would say the first fight I won, not by much. And the second fight was, like they were both close fights. I wouldn't say that they would sway either way. I definitely didn't lose, but they were probably closer to a draw than a win.
Yeah. Listen, we do a thing called Give a Shit for Mental Health. So we always ask the guests, tell us about your first shift in the National Hockey League. It's got to be such an exciting moment.
So yeah, my first shift in the NHL was eventful, and I got called up over the Christmas freeze in the AHL with Rick Rippon, who actually got me into mental health and building awareness for that. But that's a different story. Anyways, Rick and I got called up together. We both played the first game against Los Angeles Kings at home in Vancouver. Actually, sorry, he didn't play that first game because we had too many forwards. So I played the first game before he did. He was up in the stands watching. So they start me. I didn't know I was playing. I took warm up, and I think we had 7 dressed, and I can't remember if one of the other defensemen was injured or was worried about being. Anyways, after warm up, they tell me I'm in. I have a couple guys come over to me and say, "Good luck, like get him for me." And I remember thinking, "What's that mean?" I'll tell you about that later. So they started me. I started the game with Matthias Holland as my partner and Brendan Morrison, Marcus Naslund, and Todd Bertuzzi. So the West Coast Express, probably the best line in the NHL that year and the year before. So we start the game against the Kings. I can't remember who it was, but I know Jeremy Roenick was on the other side. So I'm nervous. I'm a Canadian boy. I've made the NHL. It's my first shift. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I want to rip someone's head off. And Morrison snaps the puck back to Oland. He goes D to D to me. I get the puck, and I want to obviously get rid of it as quick as I can. So I snap a puck up to Morrison, and he was kind of covered, and Jeremy Roenick just destroys him. Like, it's a little bit of a suicide pass because he wasn't really open. And I come flying up, and I cross-check him and the next guy, and I get a penalty. So 10 seconds in, I'm in the penalty box. I just gave our best centerman a suicide pass, and I'm just, like, exhaling, like, what the hell is going on right now? So that was my first shift in the NHL. But I found out later on the reason they called me up at that specific time. I think that, I earned it or whatever, but they wanted me to fight Sean Avery that game. He played for the Kings.
Oh, my God.
And he was he did something in a prior game, and they wanted me to come up and beat the wheels off of him. But, nobody really told me that. So, I probably would have made more of an effort to not give him a chance. I skated by him a couple times when we were doing line changes, and I put the shoulder into him, but like he wasn't going to fight some young kid, right, for no reason. But that was kind of part of the reason they wanted me to play that night. Look at that guy.
Yeah, listen, they know you as one tough hombre. And when I met you in Sheffield, you're such a lovable, fun dude. Like, how could anybody think you're tough? Like, they just don't know you as well as I do.
Teddy, I flipped the switch. I think deep down inside, I'm a middle child, right? Like, I grew up with 2 brothers. Well, older brother beat on me, younger brother I'd beat on him. Dad would kind of like throw us around. Like, we had a lot of fun. We wrestled, we competed. We've always had kind of that junkyard dog mentality. So that's deep down inside. But I also like to have a lot of fun. I like to chirp guys and jab and enjoy.
Well, that picture shows it right there.
It's a game. Hockey's a game. I was lucky to do it as a career for a long time and make a good career out of it. It's a game. It's a game.
It's so fun for it.
I know, lots.
But we know that. I saw you in the bars with the boys. Hey, listen, Barry Shelley writes this, and I've heard this many times. Obviously, I never made it to the National Hockey League. I got over to Germany and played many years there, but it was tough. This is I want to hear your comment on this. It's part of the days now. It's difficult to make the NHL, but then it's also just as tough to stay up there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids maybe take that for granted. You get into the NHL or you get your first game and you think you're going to be a 10-year vet and carve out a nice career and make the big bucks. It's equally as hard to stay in the NHL for a long time because you have to keep getting better and you have to keep improving. And there's always some young draft pick or some young stud nipping on your heels trying to take your spot. So you go to training camp every year. And even though you're a veteran guy and you have a contract, you still have to kind of prove yourself every year over and over and over again. So that's the way I approached my career. I always made sure I went to training camps and my niche was always to be in really good shape. Even back when I first came into playing pro hockey. It wasn't really cool. It wasn't really common to be in good shape, to work out all summer. It was that transition between, going home for the summer, drinking beers, relaxing,
Right.
putting your feet up, and the new school of working out and training year round. I was kind of right in that transition. Well, I was always one of the front runners. I knew I needed to be, I'm back then I was a undersized guy, especially for a defenseman. I'm 6'1". I was 205 back then. That was undersized back then. Now that's average. But so I'd make sure I was stronger than everybody else, better cardio than everybody else. So that's how I spent most of my summers. So I don't even remember what the question was. I just keep rambling on.
That's all right.
Remember?
Hey, listen, that's what's. I'm sick. I'm over 60. I don't care.
You don't remember.
No, I was asking about, making it to the NHL and then staying there is the big deal.
So yeah, making it and staying there is you basically have to stay hungry and keep getting better, keep improving, keep evolving with the game. I played through a pretty big time in hockey where it went from when I first got into the league and into the game, there was 3-4 heavyweights on every team. There was 3 or 4 fights every game. All the middleweights fought each other. All the heavyweights fought each other. There was only a couple guys on each team that were kind of the designated skill guys that didn't fight. And it was very physical. There was a lot of confrontations in the corners in front of the net. And to coming after the lockout, when they started calling all the penalties, what were they calling it? What was the name that they used for it?
Infringement?
All the infringement calls, right? I remember playing the first exhibition games after that, and you literally couldn't put your stick on the guy's pant, even if it was an accident, because they wanted to set the tone. So I was in that big swing. They took out the center ice line. It really opened it up. You could make the stretch passes. And then to where it is now, it's such a fast game now, and these kids are so skilled. They come into the league, and they don't play safe anymore. They don't come in and try to earn their way. They're so confident, they're so skilled that they come in and they just do whatever they want, and they're very hard to defend.
Yeah. Could you play today?
Oh, absolutely.
I know you could. I saw you play Sheffield.
I still train every day. I don't know why. I think it just.
Oh, you're going to get the call. You're getting the call. You know that for our
Australian trip. It helps me cope with not playing when I'm still in really good shape, and I'm around. I started a hockey academy in California, the first hockey academy in Southern California called West Coast Academy. So I'm on the ice every day with the kids, and I'm working out every day. It allows me to cope with not playing, if that makes sense.
Well, because you're such great shape and also a true leader, because you assistant captain for many years in the Vancouver Canucks. A contract will be sent for you because in 2021 we're doing our 10th year anniversary for the Ice Hockey Classic in Australia and New Zealand, and you are on top of the list.
Awesome. You know what, Kerry? I haven't put on full equipment on the ice since that game in Sheffield, and that was last March. So it's almost been a year and a half. I've been on the ice, like I said, every day. I'm wearing a tracksuit and my gloves and skates with the kids I'm coaching. But the last time I put on my full gear was in Sheffield, and the next time I put it on might be with you again. We'll see.
Yeah, it will be, no question. We're throwing bags of money at you, kid. Bags of money.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Listen, talk to us about obviously being an assistant captain on the Vancouver Canucks. Some great players played there, but also when I was reading your bio, you had a bunch of injuries that you overcame, and a laceration, I think, to the calf, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I like I said, I trained my butt off in the summer, and I made sure I was unbelievable shape all the time, but I still suffered a lot of injuries in my career, but I never suffered the injuries from I never, knock on wood, I never had any shoulder injuries. I always made sure my upper body was really strong for that reason. I never had any serious growing injuries because I made sure my legs were always strong. But I did have 2 skate lacerations where a guy came to hit me on 2 separate occasions, and I sidestepped them, and they slashed my the first one was my Achilles, 90% severed. Came out of surgery. Doctors told me I might never play again. It's my second year in the NHL. That was devastating. Came back in record time, which was the stupidest thing I ever did because I never really gave it a chance to fully heal. 2 years later, sliced again with the skate. This time it's the peroneal tendons, which are the 2 tendons on the side that run from your ankle up to your knee. Same thing, 3-month recovery. I've had the dislocated nose once that was snapped back. I've broken my foot 3 times from blocking shots. I've had a lot of my last Gouche fight when I Superman punched the guy.
That's it, Superman punch.
The left hand actually was going to throw a left, and it's called jersey finger. It happens in the NFL all the time. Apparently, my finger got caught in his jersey, and it snapped my tendon that goes from the tip of your finger down to the middle of your palm. It snapped it in half, and it coiled up in my palm. So I played my last year with my tendon coiled up in my palm. It was so painful until they decided I need to get this thing removed. So, I mean, I suffered my fair share of injuries, but all these people that get older in life and they're like, oh, I got my bad knee from when I played. Like, I rehabbed everything, and I feel great now. Like, knock on wood, you can, with the science and the medicine today, you can recover from a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, how you feel afterwards. Listen, they're asking, Aaron Kuzak is asking, we want you in Australia, Kevin, for the Ice Hockey Classic 2021. We have viewers from all around the world here. Germany, Australia, China.
If you can get Tim Stapleton to be the U.S. captain, I'll be the Canadian captain again.
Oh, I'm calling him right after this.
Yeah, tell Timmy if he's in, I'm in, because
how much fun is he? Like, seriously,
he's a blast, and I had never really crossed paths with him. I know we might even played against each other at some point in the AHL or the NHL, but when we landed in London, we waited for him. He came right off the plane right after us, and I hung out with him him and Rene Bork, my best buddy Jason Chafe, and I. The four of us the whole time were inseparable. What a great time! Hey,
I thought Boomer was his twin brother.
No kidding, eh? Yeah,
he says Boomer's almost his size now. That's craziness.
Yeah, but Timmy is just and it's great because he's been involved with Spitting Chicklets a lot. He's been on their podcast a lot. He's so entertaining. He tells the best story ever. He's a great guy to hang out with.
And that's what people want to hear. They want to hear the stories. Listen, I'm doing this as a hobby. We're just trying to make some fun and get people to tell stories. He came on, and oh my God, it was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing the whole time. You know what would be cool is if we get both. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call him, and I'm going to say, listen, there's a bet that if you come, Kevin's coming. So I'm going to talk, and we'll bring both of you on. We'll have a little war.
Leverage. You always do it in June, don't you?
Yeah, well, we'll do it around your schedule. Okay. Who are you kidding?
Yeah.
Well, listen, here's a couple of questions that we've got some people from Germany again. Shoppy wants to know, you played with Christian Ehrhoff.
Yep, I did.
Thoughts?
This is the same guy, Hans, with the four names.
He doesn't want to be called Hans Gert Schultz.
Oh, that's
it's
a lot
Shoppy.
of Hans.
Shoppy.
Yeah, no, I certainly remember playing with Ehrhoff. I played 2 seasons with him, and he, I just wish after that Stanley Cup run, I wish he would have re-signed with Van. I know they offered him and I the same contract, and I took it. And, at the time, everybody on the Canucks was taking discounts so we could keep the team together. The Sedins took less money, Burroughs, Kessler, myself. Yeah. Ehrhoff, it was a family decision, but I think he ended up going to Buffalo. Because he had 2 really good years with us. He had 2 seasons with, I think, 50 points, which was awesome because our defense core was the strength of our team. And we had him, myself, Edler, and Hamuse was the top 4. I don't think there was a better top 4 in the world at that point. So it would have been nice to keep it together longer. But he went on and moved on to Buffalo, which is basically the graveyard for your career, and end up going back to Germany. But I remember Hofer. I still follow him on Instagram.
Isn't Eichel saying the same thing? Hey, listen, that was the year that you guys went to the Stanley Cup final, right, against Boston?
That was 2011, correct? Yes. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up.
No, awesome. I wanted you to win. That was all I wanted. Vancouver wins the Stanley Cup. God dang it! Did that hurt your feelings? I apologize.
No, it's okay. You know what? I've come to terms with it. It's all about the journey, right? It's not about It's not about the summit. It's about the journey to the top and enjoying it. And I enjoyed every second of it.
Listen, just before we go and talk about the outdoor game, I want Barry Shelley's asking the question: did you ever go down and see the farm team from Vancouver? Now, I wonder why you would ask that question. That you were above that at that time, but did you get a chance? Because obviously, players came up from Utica.
Yeah. Utica, they made the affiliation with the Canucks. I think just before I left. So before that, it was the Moose. But no, I haven't been to see a game in Utica. But I was just in Syracuse this past season, scouting for my agent. Cal Foote was playing in Syracuse, which is close. So I've done that trek through there when I played in the minors. The bus rides all the way through the
Just imagine that.
State New York there, and Syracuse and Bingo and all those Rochester, and I've been to all those beautiful cities. And those are some passionate hockey fans there. Those are some tough arenas too. Like if you back then when you went into those arenas, like you were just hoping you could walk out without a broken nose or a black eye or something, because the fans were as tough as the players were.
And now I understand why you liked Winnipeg so much. Yeah. Listen, let's set up the captain showdown. That's cool. I like that idea for Australia. Okay, so here's the captain showdown. First, it'll be a 3-round bout, you against Timmy, and then we'll do breakaways, shootout. Who's going to win the fight?
Well, the fight's me for sure. The shootout's going to be he's got the upper hand for sure, and then we'll do like an entrepreneur competition. He sells beef jerky, Boykies.
Yeah.
And I have my hockey academy, so that'll be a close one too.
All right, perfect. And we'll do it down whether you like Uggs or Crocs. We'll ask that question. Hey, listen, here's a great picture. What a phenomenal opportunity. Talk to us about the outdoor game, because it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't mean to dampen the mood a little bit, but it was the only outdoor game I ever played at. The unfortunate part was my dad had a heart attack the night before. So the game was supposed to be played, I think, at 1 o'clock local time. So at about 9:30, my dad's girlfriend texts me and says, your dad doesn't want me to text you before the game, but he had a heart attack last night. He's in the hospital. He's going in for surgery soon. Don't come by. Good luck in the game today, but we won't be there. So I'm like, what? So I went right to the hospital, and I wasn't even going to play in the game. And my dad's like, you better get your ass to the game. I'm going into surgery. There's nothing you can do right here now, because they had to put 4 stints in. And he made me go to the game, and I played in that game. I didn't know how his surgery was going. My heart wasn't into the game, but it was a cool experience because we got to skate there. I actually skated there the night before with my dad after practice, but obviously all the things are going through my head. He made a full recovery, and everything turned out well, but I didn't probably enjoy that game as much as I wanted to. The uniforms were pretty cool, though.
Yeah, listen, you know what? I got to tell you, I think I may have to fire the producer, because he's throwing things up at me. That's just dead.
Yeah, it was at BC Place, which is where the BC Lions play. So it's, Vancouver's unpredictable weather, right? And it's not the coldest. Yeah. So they had the dome closed because they were expecting rain, and they opened it a little bit, but I think they kept it closed for the majority of it. So it was basically like playing in a big football stadium. Still cool. But certainly not like the same. Like I always remember, like when I think of the outdoor games, I think of that one game in Buffalo when it was Pittsburgh and Buffalo, and Crosby had the breakaway, and it's just snowing and you can barely see the puck. That's what I think of an outdoor game. I think they should maybe tailor those outdoor games to those climates, but that's my personal opinion.
All right, so let's go back into your NHL career then, and let's talk about some of the characters. I know, Ripken was a good friend of yours. Talk about other guys that just made such an impression on you.
Yeah, there's a lot. Alex Burrows and Ryan Kessler and we all came up together. We played in Manitoba together. We pushed our way right to the top of the Canucks. We had a lot of stories. We hung out a lot. We're all very similar personalities, where we're very competitive with each other, with other people, where we all like to chirp. We had a lot of encounters, but we were basically like kind of 3 brothers that came up together. So I got a lot of stories about those guys. The Sedins, I was fortunate enough they're only a year older than me, even though they were in the league, I think 4 years before me, but I played 10 years with them. We had our kids all together at the same time. Still very close with those guys.
Your speech was absolutely amazing. You're so articulate. No, you're so articulate.
I fool them all sometimes.
Well, no, you were actually educated. Difference. I got to grade 6 by passing, got to grade 12 by passing grade 6 twice.
When I went to university, I took school seriously. I was on the dean's list. I think 3 of the 4 years I graduated. Well, I was on the dean's list, and I had like a 3.5 average, but I was 2 classes short because when I got called up to Manitoba, I wasn't able to finish. So I ended up graduating 2 years ago. believe it or not. I didn't.
Really? Good
I
for
didn't
you.
take those last 2 courses while I was playing because I was busy and I had my kids. And about a year and a half ago, I took my last couple courses online. I just finally finished up my degree. So I was persevering. I stuck with it. But anyway, that was just a little side note.
Hey, listen, I forgot to mention, it's great to hear that your father still doing well? I apologize. I kind of brushed over that.
No problem. No, he's doing good.
Yeah.
He moved out to Vancouver just before that game, and he still lives out there with his girlfriend. He's the president of the Steelworkers Union.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
talk with him a lot. I'm going to go out and see him again soon. I haven't seen him that much lately with this pandemic and the travel, but
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'll go out and I'll see him as soon as I can.
Listen, who was the biggest prankster you played with?
Darcy Hordichuk, if you remember him, was
Yes,
a
I do.
heavyweight fighter. He was such a character. He was the biggest prankster for sure I played with. He loved, as soon as we check into the hotel, he was such a smooth talker, and he'd always go to the employee at the front desk and say, "Oh, what's that manager's name again? Was it Steve or Mike?" And they're like, "Oh, it's Ryan." "Oh yeah, Ryan told me to come down here and upgrade me to the best room." And like he would just kind of wheel and deal his way to all these, amenities, and he would call people's rooms when he checked in, and he'd say, "You got a fax at the front desk," and just like stupid little pranks like that. And so we'd fire back sometimes. The one time in Colorado, I remember we took his dress shoes and we nailed them with like a spike right through the. We had all like our individual stalls, like
Not through his foot, I hope.
We nailed the spike right through his shoe, and he was the last guy after the pregame skate, and everyone's like, "Let's go, Horty! The bus is leaving." And he goes to put his shoe on, and he couldn't pull it off the thing, so he ran out barefoot. Like it was a spike, like you couldn't, like from the crucifixion, like you couldn't get this shoe off. Like I don't know how they ended up getting it out, but he used to go when he wasn't playing and he was healthy scratched. All of our sticks would go missing in Vancouver. So after the game, we'd go back to our stalls, and there was a stick cage, but rack, but there was no cage. So they ended up putting a cage over it and locking it, because we had footage from the security cameras of Horty taking bundles of sticks to his car so he could sell them to people afterwards and make a little side bet.
Yeah.
Luongo was not really a prankster, but Luongo was a funny guy. He liked the jokes and the jabs, and a lot of characters. Not everyone gets to show it to the fans and the media. They're a little guarded.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But being in the dressing room before a practice or a game is one of the best places to be ever.
Is that what you miss most? Like I played 16 years in Germany, so after the game there was always beer in the dressing room. That's what I missed, and I miss it so much. Is that something that you miss now?
Yeah, I miss it a bit, but I think being in having this academy, and we have our own dressing room that
Right.
I outfitted and put stalls and lockers and everyone's name tags, and I kind of treat these kids like they're professionals. And I'm in the dressing room with them every day. It fills the small void. Yeah, a little bit, right? It fills that camaraderie, that being around the boys. I'm obviously the coach and the older guy, and I'm sitting back listening, but they're all jabbing each other and chirping, and they got the music blaring, and it's just that atmosphere is definitely something that I miss. Back in Vancouver and even Anaheim, we had some. I tell everybody the best time is before practice, in the dressing room before a practice, when everyone's sitting around, everybody's loose, and the jabs are flying around, the chirps are flying around. There's just so much fun that you have then.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that. Listen, before we get into the final part with obviously going over to Sheffield, there is a question from Barry Shelley. You played in both United States and Canada. Where was the media tougher? Obviously, there's such a microscope, in Vancouver, but when you're playing in Anaheim, did you feel the same kind of pressure from the media?
No, the media in Vancouver was obviously a lot tougher, and in Canada in general. It's just it's more educated fans, and I don't know if it's more educated media, but all the media members they all grew up in Canada, so they understand the culture of hockey, and they've probably been around it a lot more.
Right.
When I went to Anaheim, there's only one or two writers, and I'm pretty sure they've never played hockey in their life. And for that matter, I don't even know if they've been around sports before, but they weren't very knowledgeable, and they didn't really know what they're talking about. And the questions were pretty dull. And as you know me, like if I get a bad question, I'm gonna expose you, right? So
Well, we should get on Val right now then, some of the things that he's typing on this chat line here. Holy mackerel.
And Anaheim is very easy to handle. And it's part of the reason why I think a lot of U.S. teams have success and a lot of Canadian teams have struggled in the last 25 years. The last team to win a cup in Canada, I believe, was Montreal back in 91. There's a lot of pressure in Canada, and the Canadian media, because they have a job to do, and there's so many of them competing to write stories, they don't give you a break. If you have a bad game or two, they're talking about you. In Anaheim, you could have a bad season and nobody will say anything, and it allows you to kind of work through your problems, and you know what I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's part of the reason why I believe it's so hard to win in Toronto and Montreal now and Canadian cities.
Yeah, no question. Hey, listen, we got a couple more questions for the NHL just popped up. Good friend of ours, Chris Hyde. I don't know if you know Chrissy, but he's asking, why is Kess so miserable?
Why is Kess so miserable? So when we came to Vancouver, Todd Bertuzzi was probably the most miserable. He was one of the best players in the world at the time, but he just had like this miserable, grumpy, demeanor to him. And now, like, I see him now, and he's such a happy guy. Not happy, like he was probably happy back then, but he's just a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more, easygoing. Kess, I think, I don't know. He is very competitive. And when we were younger, he always walked around with that chip on his shoulder. He was always kind of looking at everybody like he wanted to like measure himself up against guys. Kess has really settled down, and he's he's a lot easier going now, and he likes to joke around. He's funny, he's witty, and there's a different side to Kess off the ice than on the ice for sure. Like most players, I think, in the NHL.
You were watching Gouche Live featured Paul Rosen. Paul will be back with us tomorrow. Here's another great question. Who is your favorite team to play against? Loudest fans. I
always enjoyed playing against Chicago. We had a really good rivalry with them for about 5 years. We played them 3 years in a row in the playoffs. Taves and Kane and Seabrook and Keith were kind of, and they're still great players, but they were in their primes. And it was, Kane's probably still in his prime. The guy's amazing. But it was so fun to play against them, playing in the United Center with the national anthem in the United Center in a playoff game is one of the best things you can experience in hockey. The crowd was always into it. We had some great games. We were both two really good teams. So I enjoyed Chicago. Calgary was always a team that we played so much when I was in Vancouver and in Anaheim. And there was always just a nastiness with Calgary. I played majority of my shifts were against Iginla, who was just inducted to the Hall of Fame yesterday. He was a tremendous player and so fun to play against because he was so tough and skilled and strong and so competitive and wanted to win. I just loved playing against him. We had some good battles. I'm trying to think of what other teams, like playing in Canada against Montreal and Toronto. Those games were always fun just because that's kind of where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I would say probably San Jose was always a fun team to play against. Boston, I know we had a little bit of a rivalry because of the Cup Finals for 3 years, but it just wasn't a very long rivalry. And back then, you only played teams once or twice a year, tops. So I would say probably Chicago and Calgary were the two main rivals that I had.
How many tickets did you need to get for Toronto for family members?
Well, earlier in my career, a lot. And then people stopped coming after a while. They got sick of it. The novelty was over. But my grandparents are right straight from Italy, grew up in Italy, came over in their mid-20s. And my grandfather's not with us anymore. My grandma's 90. And the first hockey game she ever saw was at Air Canada Centre. My first time playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So her and my grandfather at the time come to their first game. They're probably like 75 years old at the time, and they were hooked. They were hooked after that. She, to this day, was at her house the other day. She still watches Hockey Night in Canada every night. She's like flipping through. She's watching hockey. She's by herself, living by herself now. And she's just the biggest fan now. Probably understands like some of it, 30% of it, but just loves hockey. And it was all from that first game she came to watch me play at Air Canada Centre years ago.
Listen, there's so much more we could talk about. I got to get you back. I want to get you with Tim. I'll get a hold of Tim. If he agrees, will you come back on the show?
Oh, yeah. I'll come back with me for sure.
All right. So here we got a couple more questions, and then we're going to let you go. Listen to this. How is Torts to play for?
Torts was awesome. I only had him for 1 year, unfortunately, but we started off, and he didn't know what kind of person I was, and he came at me a little bit at the beginning, and I went into his office one time. We had an exchange and a address. Actually, it was in Anaheim, during a game in between periods where I thought he was a little bit unfair with me. The way what he was accusing me of, not important, but I went into his office. We hashed it out. We didn't hash it out. I went in there fuming, and I told him, I've earned everything I've gotten, and I haven't been given anything, and blah, blah, blah. And him and I just hit it off after then. When he realized what kind of a person I was and how I had the right intentions for everything I did, and I was going to play my butt off every night, no matter what. He loved me. I loved him as a coach. I thought he was the best motivator I've ever played for. He had unbelievable pregame speeches and in between periods. I wanted to go through a wall for Torts, and I still talk and keep in touch with him. He's a great coach.
Final NHL question: your most memorable game where you said, "Wow, here I am."
I know
there's lots.
Yeah, the first one's not really memorable because you're so nervous and scared. I think playing in the Stanley Cup Finals was awesome. I'm trying to think of one game in particular. You know what? I played for because we were so good in Vancouver for so many years. I never really got a chance to play at the World Championships until later in my career. I got asked once or twice. I think I didn't make the playoffs in Vancouver twice. And both those years, I came off I was kind of having injury problems, so I couldn't go. But I went in 2014, and I went and played for Canada in the World Championships in Minsk. And Tippett was the coach, and Rob Blake and Sean Burke were the GMs, and they named me the captain. And that was always a highlight for me because I never really got a chance to play for Canada at the World Juniors or growing up because I went the college route. But that was a big deal for me to represent my country and to be selected the captain. There was a lot of great players on the team at the time. McKinnon and Scheifele and Monahan and all these guys were just starting out their tremendous careers. That was a highlight for me. NHL, every game's a blessing in the NHL.
Yeah,
the playoffs is just so special, though. So special.
Hey, listen, you forgot to mention your time in Sheffield, so here we go.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of, because that was memorable. Just before the game, we were we were at dinner the night before. We found out the jerseys weren't going to make it, so we had to fly a guy in from Canada. You guys were going to go shirt and skins, you were sitting there. I don't even know who's going to.
Well, so that was obviously that was my first time playing in one of your games. So yeah. I remember the bus left for Sheffield the day before, and Tim says, "No, we're not going up there the night before. We're going to stay in London one more night." So the four of us stayed the night in London, and then the plan was we were going to take the train up to Sheffield the next day. And I remember you were a little bit worried. You're like, "Okay, just please be the captain of Canada, the captain of the U.S. We need you guys there." I remember I told you, "I'm a professional. I'll be there." So we go to the terminal, and we missed our train. So we kind of got the short end of the stick, and the lady put us in the wrong line. We ended up missing our train. So now we're kind of panicking. We're like, I promised Carrie would be there on time. So we end up getting on the next train, and we went right from the terminal when we got to Sheffield right to the arena. And I remember it was close, but we made it. I don't know if you knew how close it was, but it was.
Well, trust me, I was at the door waiting.
But it was an awesome experience. So we ate our sandwich on the plane. That was our pregame meal. So on the train, and just an unbelievable experience. The fans were so passionate, enjoyed the game, and it was just such a pleasure to play in front of them.
We got 5,000 people out for that.
Well, it was awesome.
And you were, I got to admit, watching you play, you were absolute stellar. I would have loved to. I saw you a couple of times obviously on TV, but to watch you live, you just loved playing. You just were. I was one of those type of guys too. Of course, I didn't get to your level, but I just loved being on the ice, and I loved entertaining the crowd.
So much fun.
And we got paid for it.
Yeah, I know. That was good. In that game, though, I hadn't played my last NHL game was obviously the season before in the playoffs. So I went 5-6 months without playing a full game, and we played 3 20-minute periods. It was a full game, and I came out of the gates hot. I was up in I putting it through my legs, showtime, trying to give the fans, and we only had 5 defensemen on our team. And who was the tall defenseman on our team that played in the and for Philly that year. Played for
Oh
Philly.
gosh, yeah, Morin.
Morin. So Morin's the guy. This guy's actually playing still, and he was on the bench. And he's like, "My legs are cramping up. I'm gassed." And I'm like, "Buddy, I haven't played a game in 6 months, and I'm back and forth, and I was tired, but it was so much fun. It was the big Olympic ice too. But what a great game! A lot of fun.
Not telling anybody you had three bottles of vodka the night before, though.
Well, yeah, maybe a beer on the train on the way up there, but we're not going to do that.
Listen, we're obviously we've taken a lot of your time. Look at that trophy. Canada won it.
It's a good pick.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, the guy on the left looks pretty cool.
Put a tie on.
Actually, I can't afford one. I don't even know who the guy on the right is. But listen, I'm getting you back on because I'm phoning Tim right after this. We're going to have the Captain's Showdown for Australia. We'll do a bunch of stuff. We'll bring the families. You'll enjoy it. No question. No question. And I'm going to get you to kiss a koala.
It's just a matter of scheduling like everything else, right?
You can schedule it. Trust me.
I got a couple things on the go. I got my academy. That's a priority, but we're always done at the very beginning of June. So we'll try to make something work.
July. We'll make it July then. Hey, we've got all the way up until, because it's going to be our 10th year anniversary. We're going to do an outdoor game in Queenstown. It's going to be a lot of fun. And because Tim has already been over and witnessed some of the great adventures that we had, that's why I'll trust him to make sure that you're on the plane on time.
I don't know if Tim has got his heart rate over 120 though in the last 3 years. So you have to tell that guy to start training soon.
He'll get in shape. No, if he knows you're coming.
Yeah, I don't know.
Competition's on.
He'll go to the golf course and he'll play 36 holes a day, but I don't know if he's getting his heart rate up.
No, I doubt it too. Hey, listen, the Spengler Cup last thing, you gave us a beautiful jersey to raise money for our causes, Stop Concussion, of course, Connected, our mental health. The Give a Shift program is on. Can't thank you enough for taking time, obviously being so kind with us, not only with that, but giving us a bunch of stuff. I will get you your jersey from the tour that actually never showed up until we got back home to Canada.
I'm sure they're beautiful.
So the pennies that you guys wore were fantastic. Hey, Kevin, last word to you, bud.
No, just thanks for having me. The Spengler Cup there, we didn't talk about that, but that was a pretty fun experience too. And did you get a chance to play in that?
No, but I was pretty good, but I didn't get that level. Listen, but I went to Davos. Tell us that quickly, because that's unbelievable.
No, it's like you fly into Zurich and then you drive 2 hours right into the mountains, and it's just a little town and a lot of history, and you walk to the rink in snowstorms, and it's just an awesome experience. So I went there with my whole family, my wife and my 2 kids. My son was old enough where he was hanging out in the dressing room, walking me to games, and that was the last time that my kids got to see me play professionally. So it was kind of a cool experience, and we lost in the finals in a shootout in like the 10th or 12th round or something like that. Like it was stupid. Like we played so well and we should have won, but again, it's the journey, and the journey was awesome. Great place to play. I had a lot of fun. Threw a couple big hits on some of those European players. It was good. A lot of white there.
Rock is in town. Look at that. Hey, listen, lock it in, Australia. Kevin is coming to town. I love it.
All right.
Hey, listen, just before I let you go, Val, those great questions you threw at me. You threw me under the bus. Now I'm throwing under the bus.
How? You are 61.
Why do you have to bring that up? Seriously. All right, Kev, thank you for being a part of it. I will be back to you. I will be back to you.
Okay. Pleasure, guys.
Take care.
Showdown's on. How cool is that dude?
Really, really great to have him on the show today.
We're going to see why he had the playoff beard on next time. I'm going to get Tim. Bieksa.
You know,
how does that sound?
That's perfect. That's perfect. It's funny. I keep saying, like, it's incredible how you can pronounce a lot of the European names from Germany and some of the posts, but some names just throw you off for some reason.
All right, I got it. I got it down. So I'm going to call Tim Stapleton after this, and I'm going to get him. We're going to do the Captain Showdown. Even if he doesn't come to Australia, we'll do a Captain Showdown.
Sounds good. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what do you got? Anything?
You know what? Just basically the same old story about rising rates of COVID in areas such as Florida and Arizona. Reason I bring that up because of a lot of the get those $2, buddy. Get those $2.
I got it waiting right here.
Tournament starts in July.
Yes, it
They're
does.
the only ones who have yet to test positive based on the numbers like baseball teams and football teams and some of the hockey teams. So, but yeah, a lot of those hotbeds like Arizona and Florida that we bring it up is because that's where a lot of the leagues are going to. So fingers crossed that they will get this thing under control and teams will be back to play for a bit of distraction for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Go for another drink. Hey, listen, Val.
Yeah.
Aaron loves your playoff beard.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to get a haircut tomorrow. Me and my little guy, 3.5 months later, we're going to get there. But I'm debating, I'm going to keep the beard. So
yeah, you should. Listen. Yeah, and get a little grayer, you'd be Kenny Rogers. Hey, listen, let's say hello to Paul. We hopefully will get him back tomorrow. Tomorrow's a great show. Fantastic show. Kevin Shea, Paul Patskew. You know what we're talking about? The top 10 goaltenders of all time.
Oh, looking forward to that one. Yeah, the fraternity. We're going to talk about the fraternity finally.
Hey, listen, look at this. Sorry, go here first. Need an Australian coach? Chris Hyde. We're going to be working on you.
There you go.
I think we need you to play, for God's sakes. All right, I got to go. It's tonic time. I'm only 3 minutes before they're on. Liverpool with a German coach. Look at that.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp is one of the top coaches in Europe.
Stay tuned. Stay on this channel. We're going off for a few minutes, and then it's tonic. It's Tony time and Nikki time.
Sounds like
you've been watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. He's not here, but Val is, and now we're going to tonic. Thanks for everything, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Let's play some hockey.